What's up guys, CJ here, and welcome back to another all-new DC Rebirth review. When we last left Kara Zor-El, she had her powers restored by the DEO in return for agreeing to work for them, and was given the cover identity of high school junior Kara Danvers. In line with that, this issue is constructed largely in the present day, but with intermittent flashbacks to Kara's life on Krypton sprinkled in throughout. And the structure does a really great job of punching up the central conflict in this issue, which kind of personally makes the entire issue for me, which is Kara trying to adjust to life here on Earth, but ultimately failing. That central conflict is really well related in the opening scene, a familiar sight for many of us that survived the teenage years. Kara struggling to parallel Park. You know, as part of her cover, she has to appear as normal as possible, and yes, that apparently includes going through driver's ed. Needless to say, she struggles, but not for the reasons you might think. To her, a car is such primitive technology. I mean, she notes that Krypton stopped teaching internal combustion years before, according to Kara at one point in the issue. In the same vein, she has troubles with things like overhead projectors, but her struggles with Earth technology all just serve to highlight how lost and alone she feels on Earth, really ripped away from a perfect life and a promising future on Argo City. When she turns to the one thing she might be better at on Earth than she was on Krypton, being a superhero, she successfully stops an interesting train robbery that involves what can only be described as aggressive data mining, but even that doesn't go off without a hitch. First, she gets chastised by Cat Grant, who makes her first appearance in this new series, and was already counteracting the thieves' hacking with the hope of interrogating them while they were flustered by that, which Supergirl of course interrupted, and so safe to say, their relationship isn't really off to a great start. Then, as if that wasn't enough, the DEO isn't too happy about her going rogue to stop a robbery on her own, which sets up another interesting conflict for her in the future with Director Chase, who sees the Kryptonian way of life as destructive, something Kara obviously disagrees with. Ultimately, defeated and downtrodden, Kara heads to the one place she can really be alone and feel comfortable, the Fortress of Solitude, which another flashback tells us Clark introduced her to before his untimely end. But even this is bittersweet because of that, as it just reminds her that the Superman that she knew is now dead. The issue ends on a pretty massive cliffhanger, with Kara opening the Fortress of Solitude only to find an occupant waiting for her, and though we never see this shadowy figure through his dialogue, it becomes obvious that it's her father, Cyborg Superman himself, Zor-El. As far as pros and cons go, this issue was really good, honestly better than the very solid Rebirth one-shot, as we get to see more of Kara's new status quo and the really interesting dynamic that this series is going for. Personally, I thought it was a masterstroke by Steve Orlando to focus on her struggles adapting to what appears to her as a very primitive society, really focusing on how her life was supposed to be different, and hopefully that continues at least a bit further in this series, as it makes for a very interesting read to me. The only downside to me might be kind of a double-edged sword, and really focusing on her struggles as a whole, big picture, giving us a look at basically every aspect of her life. There's not really a whole lot of depth in this issue. You don't really get into any particular story. You kind of just get a surface look at her life with the Danvers, her time at school, and her relationship with the DEO, among other things. In that way, it kind of almost feels like Supergirl Rebirth number 1B, as opposed to being the first issue of a brand new arc. But regardless, Supergirl number 1 is a great read behind Steve Orlando's incredible job exploring Kara's intriguing struggles adjusting to life on Earth, something that's really been underutilized in her past. Overall, I'll give Supergirl number 1 an 8 out of 10, and that's going to bring me to the end of this review. Let me know what you thought if you read it. Don't forget to smash that like if you like what you saw, subscribe for more great content every single day if it's your first time visiting us on the channel, and consider supporting us on Patreon for access to all sorts of goodies like exclusive audio commentaries and much more. Signing off, this is CJ, and I'll see you next time.